Hi there, this is Tim Gowens, and we are privileged to have Mr. George Sewak with us today with Krause Family Ford, and we are doing the Beyond the Lot podcast. Say hello there, Mr. George.
Hey, how are you, Tim?
It's good to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I have got a series of questions I just want to ask you, and I know we haven't reviewed the questions. It was intentional, so it's more conversational between you and I. So basically, we want to talk about three categories, okay? Well, the first would be kind of your past, how you came to be the fixed operations director at Krause Family Ford, and then what you're doing presently at the store, and then applying lessons. I thought it would be interesting, since you and I are older guys, to talk about applying lessons that you've learned, some of the things that you have learned about how to fix a culture in a dealership. To obviously, the happier the employees, the happier the guest experience will be. Right? I know you would agree with that. Yeah.
Yes.
So right off the bat, let's talk about this. What sparked your interest in the automotive industry? What was the thing that interested you the most, and what was the very first job you ever had at a dealership?
Well, my interest was started growing up. I was fortunate enough to have an enduro bike and a motorcycle.
Oh, I had one of those.
Yeah.
What enduro bike?
I had a Honda. Yeah.
What year?
Well, that would have been probably 73,
Oh,
74.
my goodness. I had a Honda Enduro, early 70 something bike. Is what I almost broke my body in half with it. But yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, so with that, my brother and I, he was just a year younger than me, so we were close, but we would dismantle the motorcycle, and it was an enduro, so it had all the turn signals and everything on it. Well, we wanted a dirt bike, so we took all that stuff off and learned about electronics and how it works, and a sense of pride when we had it done, and it still ran. Yeah. So
that's a big accomplishment if it still ran after.
Exactly. And I was also fortunate enough to grow up about not even a half a mile from my house was a filling station or a service station. And it was back in the day, they had 4 garage doors, and my friends that were older than I, who were able to drive, they had their cars in there, and they would tinker around with them, and in that day, put side pipes on them and put headers and double pump carburetors. And so
I remember those days, man. My brother had all that. Do you remember the car where you would jack the back of the car
jack
up?
Way up, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys did all that. So I learned all that. But as I was going through, and it was more of a hobby, and it was a lot of fun, right? But I went off to college and had these visions of grandeur that I was going to follow in my father's footsteps and become an attorney. And at that young age, I wasn't smart enough to know how important an education was. But I did get a very good education, and as it turned out, I didn't feel like going to law school, and so as I was working around, and I grew up in Pittsburgh, and so it was a little tough at the time to get jobs because the mills all had gone down. So I decided, well, I'm gonna go for something in management, and I got a call from Kmart Corporation, of all places.
Kmart
Corporation. Yeah. So back then, I became a manager and ran the sporting goods department and the auto department, and
so in those days, those were together, weren't they?
Yeah, they were together, and then the service department. So we had all those. So my first day, it was sink or swim, because the boss said, "Hey, I got to go. It's all yours." Yeah. so I learned from there.
I got you. So you were on your own. How old were you about that?
Probably about 23, 24.
24. Wow.
Yeah, probably right around there. I started in 1984. Okay. So I spent 12 years with them, and that would have been considered retail. Okay. And my very first job at a dealership, they had recruited me because I was from the aftermarket world. And at the time, Ford Motor Company said, we have to do something about the Goodyears and the Kmarts and the Walmarts. They're eating our lunch.
Oh,
and so because I had that retail background, I was highly sought after. And my first job was in Youngstown, Ohio, at a dealership. And
what did you do there? What was your first job at a dealership?
Service manager. Yeah, it was a smaller store, but I got in there, and with my experience with retail and talking with customers, I was pretty good at it. But the dealership world was a little bit different. I was excited to be there, and I did well enough. I got recruited again to go somewhere else. So And then I made it to Lima, Ohio, where Mike Stimmel was, and
Yeah,
that's where I
that's
met
right.
Mike.
So you've known Mike Stimmel, the GM there, for a long time. I didn't realize that
like
you guys
26 years.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we weren't in close touch over the years, but kind of kept tabs on him and where he was and what he was doing, and I didn't know. So anyway, so I spent after Lima, Ohio, I went to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Again, a recruitment job, and that job was happenstance. Sometimes. The timing is everything, right? And so I happened to meet somebody at an event, and they were looking for somebody in Tennessee. And at that time, my wife and I were like, we need to get out
So by
of
this
the
time,
ice and cold.
obviously, you're married by this time.
Yes,
right?
I'm married by
Right,
this time.
And what's your wife's name?
I have a 9 and an 8-year-old,
Okay.
and decided to move across the country into Tennessee. And I had a very valuable career there for myself and my growth. And it was a large dealership. Took that one over, and we made it work. By the year 2024, decided that it was time for me to move on, and we went to Florida, and I spent about a year off, and realized that I had more to give. There was more for me to do in this. I know some folks would say, "Well, what the heck did you retired and then we came back to work? Why?" And it was this drive to help the young folks and people that
It's
just starting
interesting.
out, so they know what's going
The young folks of today they haven't had the opportunity, I don't think, to experience what you had as a 23-year-old manager of probably at that time, what, $1 million business?
Yeah,
maybe?
easily.
Portion
Yeah,
of that?
oh yeah. Yeah, and during Kmart too, I mean, I did well enough. I became a district manager before I left, and then in my roles with the dealership, started out as a service manager, worked my way up to director, and then for the last 15 years, I've been a fixed operations manager. So yeah. So it's been, the automotive business has been very good to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Looking back, what was the toughest lesson you learned in the early years of your career? Maybe in service, or maybe the parts, or maybe the body shop. I know you've had some body shop experience. That still sticks with you today. What would be the toughest lesson that you learned?
The biggest thing and it's still my mantra today, is to take care of the customer. And I have a saying and it's an acronym, and it was GLAD 2, and that was established after my early years of dealing with the public and starting to understand how you would handle maybe a disgruntled customer. Happy ones were always easy, right? But the disgruntled ones, and it was probably something that we didn't communicate properly. So I came up with and it made a big difference in my career, was GLAD 2.
Glad to. Yeah. Chick-fil-A, do you know what Chick-fil-A is?
Yeah.
They say thank you, and they say what? My pleasure. Yeah, it's my pleasure. So yours was glad to.
Glad
right?
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we break them down, and G was for greet the customer, L was for listen, and that was right there. It was enough after that, right? Yeah. You have to listen to what the customers.
Listen, can you go ahead and finish? Do you remember the
Yes,
rest of it?
absolutely. And then you ask questions. You ask questions, and then the D is for determine their needs. What does that consumer need at that particular point? Once you've done that, then you tell them why they should service with us. For what reasons? Maybe it's because we have certified Ford technicians. Maybe it's because we have ASE certified technicians. But you explain to them why they should service with us. And then when you're done with that, and then you offer the sale. So you have that conversation back and forth with the customer.
That's really interesting. Did you make that up yourself?
No, I got it from somebody else, but I don't remember who. And
Well, that's pretty informative. Our listeners might really have picked up something today that they can use. That's great.
and it's in everyday life. If your wife and yourself or your best loved one get into a spat, it's the same thing. It's all about communication, and the biggest part is
Everything boils down to speaking and listening. I think we got 2 years. God gave us 2 ears for something and a mouth for. We need to do more listening, I think, than we do talking.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
So, how did the path take you from entry-level role to becoming the fixed operations director? Was there a pivotal moment in your career, in your past, or maybe a mentor that you'd like to talk about who changed the trajectory of your path?
This goes all the way back to Kmart, and that was full retail. So I mean, everything, we're here to sell a product that the consumer needs or wants, and the best thing I can tell you that somebody told me was, if they need to buy it, why not us? What's the difference? And the difference is yourself. That's what the difference is, and you have to believe in yourself. Obviously, it's really hard to sell a product that you don't like. However, if you talk to the consumer and you talk to them and you be honest with them and frank, typically they want to share their experiences and tell you why they want to do it, and then they start asking questions. And when that happens, for me, it really made me feel good about what I was doing and what I was talking about, and I could tell that just in body language that customer was pleased and was happy. Yes.
You learn to read people.
Yes.
You learn to read people's body language and what they were saying, maybe not so much with their words, but how they were reacting to what you're saying.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
That's
Really
important.
We used to tease about when you're in the automotive business and you're forward facing with the customer, that you're a psycho auto analyst.
A psycho auto analyst. Okay, that's good. That's good.
One of the big things that I learned was, especially in the United States, people love their cars.
Yes.
There's a whole reason for it. And there is a difference. Europeans, yes, but not so much as it is in the United States, because when somebody buys a car, it's one of the happiest moments in their life.
Yeah, that's true. It is a wonderful feeling to have that brand new, fresh F-150, isn't it? I bought an F-150 from Krause, and there's nothing quite like that new car smell.
And I think everybody would agree with you.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. You worked in obviously different environments, as you've described. What was the biggest cultural or operational challenge that you faced in your early positions? Maybe cultural, because dealership culture is difficult. And I know that it is. I've owned an automotive business myself for 38 years, and that's tough, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's very tough. It's a hard thing to overcome at times.
Absolutely, it is. And well, to change the culture, obviously you have to decide why the culture is the way it is. What has set that in motion?
So determining what's causing the problem first is sometimes difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, because some cultures could be really toxic, and you've got to figure out, is it an individual? Is it where we work? Is it the building? Typically, it's not. Typically, it's interaction amongst the employees, and a lack of maybe discipline a little bit, but also not giving them or expressing to them what our vision is, and expressing to them what we need to do and why we need to do it. Very similar to a football coach or baseball coach or a soccer coach explaining, this is the game plan, and you have to sell it.
Yeah, you have to get them bought into it, right?
Exactly, and that's the key. You get them bought into it. As they see the results, they'll start getting better, and they start doing the things that you asked them to do. Nothing out of control, nothing crazy, just good, solid customer service.
Can you share a specific story with us, how things went from one place to another place by your efforts?
Yes. So my first year that I was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, it was an older store. It had a lot of folks that had been there for a while, not a lot of strong leadership, and I decided at that time, along with my boss, the dealer principal, that we were going to go to a team system. Okay. And that, at that particular point, that was a very big shakeup, because they weren't used to anything like that. And we needed to change the culture there to get the customers' cars done, meet their needs and their expectations. And the team system was a way for us to hand over some of the empowerment to certain technicians, generally the ones that had knowledge about the car and a lot about the car, and then they would be able to hand it off to the other ones, the other techs that work for them. It worked so well when we went in. Everybody was upset and didn't understand why we were doing it, and some felt they maybe were overlooked for that position. But as we pushed through it and explained why we're going to do it, within a couple months, it changed to the point where everybody was doing what they needed to do. And I could visually know what was going on just by looking into the shop or in the parking lot. And I knew what was going on because they all started doing the things that we had asked them to do. Well, as it turned out, then our customer satisfaction scores were going up. It was reported to them every week we got it, and we would tell them what our score was. And you could actually see them smiling and nodding. And
that's cool.
It is.
That's really
and some of the fellas that we never thought would be able to turn, make a good wage, all of a sudden are making a good wage. Right. We eventually didn't have to have teams anymore. And it was difficult because we had to have the right people in those positions. And as it turned out, I didn't need it anymore because the culture, they had done everything they needed to do. And the turning moment was when a technician came to me and told me how a customer had greeted him and told him thank you, and very appreciative of the work that he did in the timely manner he did it in. And he was beaming from
did that make you, how did that make you as the leader feel? How did you feel when that happened?
That was probably that's why I remember it, because it was one of those things that the light bulb went off and I said, this is how you do it. This is how you work it. And a lot of it has to do with keeping everybody informed, where we are, what we're doing, and having an open door.
Communication, right?
That's what it is, all about communication.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, George. That's really very insightful. If you could go back, this is a good question. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice before stepping into the fixed operations role that you're in, what would that one thing be?
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Okay. What do you mean?
Stay focused on your vision. There's always going to be a hurdle. There's always going to be something that comes up that you think is bigger than what it is, because you allow your own mind to take possession and go off into places that you don't need to be. Yeah. Everything in this world is black and white. I mean, there are obviously some gray areas, but there's things that you can't control. Well, don't worry about it. Yeah. I can't control the weather, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go and do what I have to do. I control the things that I have, and don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great advice for the younger folks listening. Don't sweat the small stuff. Pay attention to control what you can, and don't worry about what you can't. Right? Can't control. That's really good.
And it makes you be able to go home at night and put your head down and go to sleep.
Sleep well, right?
Yeah, and sleep well. Yep.
Okay, so presently, okay, you're the fixed operations director. Well, for our listeners, explain what that means.
Fixed operations director is, the first word fixed is something that's always going to be there. It's fixed. The sales department is variable because of the market and the
Thus
trends.
The name variable ops.
Variable ops, which would be for the sales and finance and generally what we would consider the dealer showroom. Fixed operations is something that we're always going to have. I think if you Google a service department or a dealership, every single one of them has a service department. The cars aren't built that great,
Right.
no matter who builds them.
No matter who it is.
That they don't need a service department. So the fixed operations means that I'm in charge of the service department, where we actually service the automobiles, do recalls, oil changes, and brakes. Also the parts department, which is a very integral part of the whole dealership, and watching their inventory and working with them, and again, communication. And if the store has a body shop, which in this case we do, and working with them as well. So I oversee all that. The fixed operations director is more of a view from 40,000 feet.
Right.
And we're looking to what we can do with the business. I will have a service manager, a body shop manager, and a parts manager with their assistants underneath me. And so that's what the fixed operations. So my job is to look at the overall picture and see what we can do to better the dealership, whether it's our customer service in general, or it's profitability, or it's saving the consumer some money.
That's great. That's a great. That's the best definition of a fixed operations director that I've ever heard. So as the fixed operations director, what does a typical day look like for you at Krause Family Ford?
At Krause Family Ford, my typical day is, so if you're a fixed operations director, or a manager of almost anywhere, and it has to do with retail. And if it's wholesale, it doesn't matter. But the first thing I look at is how are we doing? Where are we trending? So I look at that, and I have several tools and several apps to go into to help diagnose my business. And it doesn't matter if it's parts, body shop, or service.
What are those tools?
They are apps that I can look at how many repair orders we written, how many customers did we get finished the day before, how was our CSI? What are the customers saying about
Yeah, well, CSI. What does CSI? I know what CSI stands for, but what does it stand for?
CSI is Customer Service Index. And so it's a measurement of how well we're doing or how well we're perceived. And typically that has to do with communication. And so those are some of the things that I look at. There is obviously a lot more. Some days I may spend more time on one department than another, but typically that's the way it is. Then after I've gone over and looked at it and compared numbers and making sure that there aren't any trends that are negative, then I will tour all the departments, see how everybody is, greet everybody, say hello. I might say, how's your kids doing today? Or how's that new baby doing? And
why do you do that? That's interesting. Why do you do that?
It's very important for the people that work for you know that one, that you're there and that you're walking around and you're looking at what's going on, and not with a hypercritical eye, but you're there and they know you're there. And then it's very important that you acknowledge them and say hello and ask how they're doing. I find that's, it's good for me, to be honest with you. It's good for me. I might get more pleasure out of it than they do. But it allows them to know that I'm not unapproachable.
Right. It creates a bridge, right?
Absolutely.
It makes them feel more comfortable. If there's an issue that they need your leadership on,
right,
that they feel comfortable about coming to you, and they're not going to get a snarky person, right?
Right, exactly.
And I've learned too through the years that unhappy employees generally will not be necessarily perceived as happy employees to their customer. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, don't you think?
It is.
Yes.
It is. And, and every day I have somebody come into me and come to my office or call me on the phone to ask me some advice. Yeah. And I try to provide the best advice I can. And if I don't know the answer, I tell them I'm going to have to get back with you.
Yeah. That's great. That's really great. What are the biggest wins that your team at Krause Family Ford has achieved in service, maybe, or in parts, or in the body shop in the last, I know you haven't been in this role at this dealership that long. So what are some of the wins that you've seen?
Well, the communication amongst everybody has gotten much better. The accountability has gotten much better, which has put smiles on everybody's faces. We have a meeting once a week in the service department, once every day with the service writers, every day with the body shop employees. So and the parts departments, probably once a week. So we have those, but the biggest win right now is there is a measurement on how well we perform on repairing Ford automobiles.
Okay. What's it called?
And it's called Fix It Right the First Time.
Okay. Yeah. What's a good name?
It is a good name. That name has been around since Henry Ford. I think Henry Ford decided that's what it was. I remember an old banner from the 1970s, and it was on there. And but it's a measurement to tell us how we're doing, or how the customer perceives us how we're doing. And that score has gone up 4 points since I've been there. So it's
really
huge.
Great. Congratulations. That's congratulations. That's really great. That is a big win.
It is. It's a really big one.
You should be proud of that.
I feel good about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. How has Krause Family Ford's culture evolved since you've joined? Do you think it's evolved in any direction, and why?
It has evolved. It has evolved into folks being more open and speaking with each other, and especially with me. And that's it evolved because I got involved. It's every store, every building. The old saying, it's not the brick and mortar, it's the people that are in it. And if I can convince them that this is the right way and this is how we should do it, and we follow the golden rule, we're going to make our customers happy. The customers, by them being happy, are going to make you happy.
That's right.
And the culture starts to change, and that's what's happening right now.
Do you see any room for improvement? And if so, what would it be?
We need to still get more open. We still need some folks to get involved. It's not, with technicians, body shop, and parts people, there's probably approximately 95 altogether. And so I don't have all 95 bought in yet.
Well, yeah, of course you're not going to have that.
They will be, and they will get there as that feeling rubs off on everybody. They'll see, and it's already happening. I got a lot more smiling faces, a lot more folks getting things done, offering to do things that they normally wouldn't have done.
Oh wow! Okay, that's
so
important.
Yes,
yeah.
And so that's the change in the culture. And when I say they're offering happily.
Happily doing so.
Yes.
There's nothing worse. Well, I'm not doing that because that's not my job, right?
Right. Or George told me to do it.
Or George told me to do
Yes.
this. Yeah. Right.
Yes, exactly. It's more now of, I'm doing this for George because he needs to get it done, not because he pushed me into it. And typically, again, if you're going to be a manager of anything, it's not do it because I told you to. You ask them, can you do this?
Yeah.
Remember, I'm actually speaking for the customer at this particular point.
Right.
I'm his mouthpiece to go there, and I find that when I ask, I rarely get no's.
Yeah.
Rarely, and if I do get a no, it's because they're involved in something that they have a timeline to beat.
Yeah, they have something that they're doing probably that needs to be finished or achieved by a certain time.
Exactly, and that conversation is very respectful.
Yeah, they're not disrespectful, and probably because you're not and have not been disrespectful to them.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yep. Treat them like I want to be.
treat them like you want to be treated.
Yep.
That's really good. That's really good. Has the team come together in an impressive way? Maybe the body shop, or maybe the service techs, or something, or the techs. Have they come together in a way that has surprised you?
Yeah, I'd say not greatly surprised, but there now is better communication between the departments, and there's better communication between the front of the service department to the body shop, from the service department to the techs and back. There certainly was some good feelings before I got there, but now they're getting strengthened.
That's good. That's impressive. That's very good. Okay, last category, applying lessons learned. Okay, so how are you personally using lessons from your past to reshape the fixed ops culture at Krause Family Ford right now? I mean, I know we've touched on it.
Yeah.
Does anything specifically, like, is there a specific plan? Okay, this worked in the past. Maybe you mentioned the teams thing. Are you implying anything like that at Krause Family Ford?
Yes, and I would probably say some of it's unconscious. Okay. Some of it I just do because that's what I have done over the years, and I know that it works. I've seen it work. Right now, I would say probably the biggest thing that I know that worked before was our communication with our customer through our business development center, to reach out to them. And when we do that, and I call and I say, Tim, you've got a recall on your F-150, they are very pleased to hear that. It sets the tone when they come in, and what works. And then what I tell folks is that once that customer's here, that's the best thing we could do, is to take care of them right then and there. And those are things that I know that work, and they're working right now at Krause Family Ford.
Yeah, that's really good. That kind of covers my next question, is what specifics are you doing? And that kind of covers that next question. That's a really great specific thing that you're doing that has worked. That's really
and we know that we're working real hard with Ford Motor Company, with our Fix It Right the First Time score, which we'd mentioned, with our guest experience.
Tell them about the guest experience. What is that?
Well, the guest experience is all focused around the customer, which is the guest. I mean, and the whole idea is if you invite somebody to your house, they're a guest, right? And most folks, when they invite a guest, they treat them nice. And what's some of the things they ask them when they get there? Would you like you need some water? You want something to drink? Sure. I was asked that today here.
Well, I'm glad I didn't say, hey. I'm glad I remember.
Yeah. But it's a guest experience, and so you don't have a guest come to your house in most cases and start berating them
Sure.
or yelling at them or tell them to get out or don't offer them a drink or, so that the idea of a guest is where that evolves with. And so we want to take care of them, make them feel at home, make them feel good. Hey, yeah, go ahead over to the refrigerator and get yourself a bottle of water. So that's what the guest experience is about, and it's about our guests' experience with us based on what we do.
We had Aaron Gray on from our last episode. Aaron Gray is the Ford Guest Experience Consultant for Ford Motor Company, and he's been on the podcast.
Okay.
He's a really fine young man.
Mm-hmm.
And, he a lot of the things that you're talking about are literally just hand in hand with what we talked about. The
Correct.
importance of having happy employees, and happy employees create an happy environment. And when people come in, they sense that, they sense something's different about this place. People are happy. People are smiling. They're not uptight, so that's really good. That's really good.
And everybody experiences, right? Everybody has feelings.
Right.
And you can, how many times have you heard somebody say, I just didn't feel good there. I didn't feel right. Something was off. And everybody has them. Everybody has that.
Ladies do more so than men, I think.
Yeah,
my
also,
wife,
yeah.
My wife can pick up on things when she goes into a store or she goes into an environment with other people. She immediately picks up on something that, to be honest with you, that I just don't pick up on.
Well, my wife, I'd be the same as you.
Yeah.
Even though I like to talk about it and I think about it, but in my regular everyday life, it doesn't always come into play. How I want to treat people, I want to be treated. That's always there, and that's just my mantra. But as far as me, sometimes no, I overlook those things.
Yeah, I have a tendency to. I do too. Well, that's good. That's really good that I know that Krause Family Ford and Mike Stimmel are actively seeking to improve the guest experience, which begins with their employees' situation and the culture there.
And you touched on it. Happy employees make happy customers, and that takes care of everything else.
That's right. Here's an interesting question for you. Where do you see AI, artificial intelligence, making the biggest impact on fixed operations over the next 3 to 5 years in terms of diagnosis or scheduling or customer experience? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I do. Ford Motor Company is already started a predictive repair analysis, and we were able to get the information from Ford and develop what we think is going to be happening with this car. It's not necessarily AI, but it is, because it's the car's computer that tells us what's going on, and it gives us an opportunity to look. Ford has taken that the extra step and actually could send us the part that we may need for that repair before the car arrives. So that makes that repair go much quicker. It really is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We also have AI bots, if you will, and we're using those, and it's very much more efficient. Not that we didn't have good people that answered the phone, but AI can literally take 100 phone calls in the same beat, which we could never do.
Yeah, you could never do that.
We could never do it. And it's able
So y'all
to...
have an AI answering service there?
We do.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So when you call in, she will tell you that she is a bot.
Okay.
And that she's ready to help you with whatever you need. Pleasant, and everything bad that you've heard about AI is everything good about the bot.
Okay.
On the other end, she recognizes your name. She recognizes what kind of car you have. She recognizes your phone number and who you are, and she'll ask you if you have a couple cars. She'll say, "Are you calling about the Expedition or the Escape?"
So absolutely, it has the ability to based upon that customer's phone number, what kind of car they're talking. Wow, that's impressive.
I mean immediately. So if we have one of our business development center people pick it up, they can't go that fast. Yeah. And
wow.
They can't get in and do that, but she can find it immediately. She's set up to answer your questions. She can't get into anything real deep, which is, we don't intend it to because of just the way the automotive business is. There's obviously a lot of things that folks don't understand, but she couldn't either. But she will direct that call to the right person.
And so is it working smoothly?
It is working smoothly. It's working great. If Mia said,
That's
I
her
want
name.
I'd
is
like to
Mia.
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 Yeah,
Okay.
she said, and if you as the guest called in, you said, I want to talk to Tim, she routes it right to Tim. If there's two Tims, she's going to ask you which Tim are you referring to. but she would actually send it to you that quickly, and it is real time. And if you don't answer, she'll pick back up again and say, well, he's not able to answer the phone right now. What else can I do for you?
Yeah, wow.
So much faster. And
Much
think
more
about,
proficient, yeah.
yeah, think about, she's talking for you, but she's also talking on another line for somebody else and another line. And she might be transferring one to the body shop. So she's doing that all at one time, which we don't, one person could never do all that.
Who would have ever thought 10 years ago something like that would be available? I would have never guessed.
Oh, well, wasn't smart enough to think of it
Wow.
either. So that how smart that this thing can be. And, and the voice is very mild and calm and factual.
Right.
So it helps keep our customers at ease.
Yeah.
And I think some of the guests that call in sometimes are, a little skeptical.
Yeah.
But as we move along, as everybody gets to know what the bot
it
does.
seems to be working, huh?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is so impressive.
So it'll get better. There's even AI right now for technicians, so that
Now, how do the technicians use AI?
Technicians, they're in the automotive business. There are the 3 C's: the customer's concern, the cause of the problem, and then what the correction is. Well, the technician, his job is to put what the correction is. So he can use AI, and he can put in, I need to replace the water pump, and AI will put it in a verbal form for him that is technical as well as in layman's terms, and so he within a few seconds he can add that to the claim, read it over, and he's done.
And then the service advisor then can read that to the client when
Absolutely.
what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's on the client's invoice.
Okay.
So it's all well written and to understand.
Yeah.
And there may be some questions.
I can imagine some technicians don't necessarily write very well. All right.
Correct. Or they'll do a lot of acronyms.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, I can see that in the automotive industry, right?
Yeah, well, maybe like the doctor writing you a note.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
When you can't read his writing, yeah, it's the same thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
How are you already preparing your team at Krause Family Ford for AI tools that may be oncoming so that they can view them as helpful partners rather than a threat? Do you have any of your technicians, or do you have any of the older guys like me maybe that view AI as, oh, I don't know about this, and how are you handling that?
If there are some I think not quite negative vibes about it, but the technicians have evolved over time. Some of the technicians, there was maybe one onboard computer for the whole car. Yeah. Well, they've evolved since then to whether it's 12 to 15 to 16. So they've gotten used to that. As far as predictive repairs go, they're still skeptical about it. But as we work our way through it and they find that actually works for them, and they actually have the part and they can return the car to the customer quicker, they're responding positively. We're still in our infancy with that, so we're still all learning what part of AI we can use that best helps us and the consumer.
At the end of the day, it's probably making the technician much more proficient, right? Yeah. And hopefully, in the long run, earning more money because he's more proficient, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because when we talk about AI and putting in the correction statement, that could take him 10 minutes as he goes back and goes over it. Well, AI is smart enough to know what he's done, and he can put it in there within 2 minutes. Wow, so he saves himself some time.
That's so impressive.
And it's good because if it's a warranty claim, well, then the manufacturer is going to look over that statement to see if it's correct. And that saves him a lot of time.
So the manufacturer is following behind.
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay, got it. Okay, here's a good question for you. If you could wave a wand, you have a wand, a magic wand, and you could wave this wand and have one AI-powered tool in your fixed operations department tomorrow, what would it be and why?
So if I had a wand,
Magic wand that did exactly what you wanted. What would it be? Yeah. So embracing the AI is what you'd like to have happen. That's a great answer.
At one point you have to commit to say, I have to give this a try.
Yeah.
How will you ever know if anything works if you didn't try?
You know, here in the studio, we have AI has entered into it in a big way, and I'll share with you later. But at first, myself and all of my studio musicians, we were scratching our head going, ooh, this is kind of painful because it potentially could take their job away, you know? And I think a lot of people maybe in the automotive world may have that concern that AI could take their job. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely. It is so true. So yes, at Krause Family Ford, when we introduced AI as our phone answering, the folks that answered the phone thought they were going to lose their job. And in the short time that we've had it, we found that that's impossible. We cannot. You know, a good example would be when the banks really started getting involved in it, and they thought they could do away with all their tellers. Well, the bank account holders said, "Oh heck no, you can't have that happen. I want to actually sit down and talk to somebody that I know when it comes to my money. I want to be able to converse with somebody." And the banks reversed it and said, "We aren't."
That was probably pretty wise, right?
Yes, that was very wise.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to an AI robot about my money for sure. Right?
Absolutely, and we have, our guests they're saying the same thing. They'd rather talk to somebody, and that's why Mia introduces herself as a bot.
Have you seen or have you heard, or maybe I don't know if this is actually in existence or not, but you walk into a dealership and instead of meeting a salesperson, you enter into a kiosk environment like you're in a McDonald's or something.
Correct.
Now.
Yeah.
And you punch in what you want, and then comes a AI robot, and she talks to you and converses with you and places your order and takes a payment for the vehicle all right there. Do you think that that's in the future?
I can see that being in the future. I really can see that.
What do you think of that? Do you think that's I don't know. Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it's a great thing when the customer or the guest arrives at the dealership. And so on the service side, the tool, this kiosk, gathers way more information than I could or you could when we're talking to folks, because we allow our emotions to get involved, and not in a bad way. Is, if I see somebody and they pull in and they have a Pittsburgh Steeler plate on the front, well, my vision changes and I want to speak to them and talk to them. Well, sometimes we get off subject, where the kiosk will keep that on subject, and it will get all the pertinent information we need, but we will never, ever not be able to do with the human touch. So after that's all done, so that would be all our clerical stuff that needs done. Then a service writer was still, or a service advisor or assistant service manager, we need to reach out with the personal touch, a human personal touch.
I hope you're right. I hope that it doesn't take the legs out from under a dealership,
I really don't see how that's going to be possible because of the array of problems or issues that a vehicle might have.
Yeah, right, that's true.
And sometimes it's a feeling with the driver, and sometimes it's not.
Well, you have been absolutely great today. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us. I got one more question for
Okay.
you. Looking ahead, what would be how do you plan to blend the human touch, the culture, in other words, building the culture through the human touch, with AI advancements? Have you considered that?
I have.
At Krause Family, staying ahead of the game, I guess.
Well, the way I look at it is AI was invented by man. It was invented by somebody, right? I don't know who it was, but it was invented by man, and essentially, it's the same thing as the caveman or somebody that invented the wheel. It just keeps evolving, but never has it ever left the human touch in it, and it's huge to know that we all have feelings, and we all do want. I mean, let's when you were growing up and I was growing up, I was my father's remote.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? But we have remotes today, and it's just another tool that we use. And so AI would be another tool for not only the service department or the body shop or the parts department. It's a tool for the customer, and it will help us keep us more accurate. But I don't think we can ever do away with the human touch. And we're never going to have a robot that's going to be able to do the things that a technician can do.
Well, thank you so much, George, for being with us today. You've been an absolute excellent guest. This is Krause Family Ford's podcast called Beyond the Lot. And we had Mr. George Sewak with us today. It was a pleasure having you. And we hope that you'll come back and watch more of our podcasts. Thank you.
Thank you.